What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Missflips. In today's episode, we are going to be making over not one, but two nightstands. All right. Let's get flipping. So I got these pieces off of Facebook Marketplace, and my client from Etsy, she had some really specific dimensions, and they have a really tall bed, so they were looking for some side tables to go with that and to, be the appropriate height for the height of their bed. And before we get to repairing all of the damage that's on this, I'm going to give it a good clean. So I want to take off everything that I am not going to be actually cleaning. So this includes these lights, the ripped veneer, the damaged veneer, and all of the hardware. So we're going to get started on that before we do anything else. This veneer here was giving me a little bit of trouble here, so I went ahead with my heat gun and used that, and that just made it a whole lot easier. The heat gun heats up very quickly and gets very hot, so if you're going to use this approach, make sure to definitely use caution and try not to burn yourself. So to make the depths of these little, hoods, I guess, even, I went ahead and took the veneer off the other side as well. And the little corner decals on this piece, or on these pieces, I didn't really care for, and I don't think that they would match the aesthetic that I was going for them. So I went ahead and took them off, and then I'm going to fill the holes later with wood filler. Also, I have no idea what happened with these pieces, but they are upside down. They should be like that. I don't know how they came to be upside down, but they are. So I will definitely make sure to put them right side up when I put the piece back together. But yeah, we're removing the hardware just so we can clean and get a fresh surface to apply our paint to. And for the hardware, I tried restoring them by putting them in a vinegar and water bath, but unfortunately that did not work very well. They were pretty damaged as it is, so unfortunately I had to end up spraying them. But yeah, this is a great solution if your hardware is in good condition in the first place. And once all of the loose bits were off and we were down to the bare bones for this piece, I went ahead and gave it a good vacuum and then cleaned it off with a vinegar and water solution. Once I took this right piece off of its wheels, I noticed that it was wobbling back and forth quite a bit, which was a very easy solution. If you can see here, there were some white studs that were in opposing corners of this piece, and so I just took them off. It was really simple and fixed the awkward wobble right up. So for sanding, I'm starting off with a 120 grit, and I kind of always like testing out a 120 grit first, just to see what kind of veneer I'm working with or what kind of finish. Luckily, the finish on here was very, very thin, so I was able to go with my 120 perfectly fine and remove all of that finish and get down to basically practically bare wood with just the 120 and hardly any pressure. As you can see, I was going very, very slowly over the veneer, and this helps avoid those little squiggly marks left by the sander, and it also helps you get a little bit more control when working with thin veneer. You don't, burn through the veneer quite as easily or as unpredictably. But once all of my drawers were finished with the 120 grit, I went ahead and started sanding with the 220 grit just to finish it off and get any of the squigglies that were left behind. To be honest, at this stage in the process, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the pieces, honestly. So I just sanded off all of the places that I thought I might want to have natural wood and just kind of rolled with it. So I'm sanding off the tops in preparation of me maybe needing them to be bare later on. But if you are looking to just paint over something, keep in mind that you don't have to sand all the way to raw wood all the time. You can just give it a quick little scuff sand so the paint has something to adhere to. This is not necessary unless you're going to restain something. So the veneer on this top portion here was kind of coming off, so I actually ended up deciding to take it off entirely. So again, I'm using a combination with a knife and a heat gun eventually to get up most of the veneer, and then I just went ahead and went in with my 120 grit sandpaper and sanded the rest off, and then cleaned it up with some 220 grit sandpaper just to smooth everything out. So for these bigger repairs, I tried to get away with plastic wood for the corners, and this did not end up working. It ended up crumbling and breaking off, and it just, yeah, did not work at all. So if you're looking to paint over some damaged areas, I would highly recommend using something a little stronger than this. Like even like spackle works. But yeah, just not plastic wood. Doesn't work well. Don't recommend it. But while all of my repairs dried, I went ahead and got started on the drawers and just vacuumed all of the dust off and wiped off everything with a rag and then stained everything. I stained it first with a walnut color, and then I ended up doing a mixture of several different colors and different coats to get the color that I really wanted. But yeah, I think it was a mix of like walnut and then like a hazelnut, and I think that was it. But yeah, I just waited between coats to let everything dry before I went in with the next stain, and just kind of worked it until I found a color that I liked. And once all of my repairs were dry, I went in and sanded everything off. And like I said, I definitely didn't like the way that the plastic wood ended up working. So I went in after I filmed this video and did those repairs. And now that everything's good to go, I just vacuumed up everything and made sure that it was completely dust free and then went in with my paint. So my client and I had discussed working with a green for her nightstand, so I went with Jacob's Well. I had actually just worked on it with this piece here, and I really loved the results of this color. So I sent her photos of the color, and she loved it as well, so I went ahead and went at them with the green. What I like about this paint is that it dries fast enough for me to work on separate sides and then go around for the second coat pretty much directly after. It dries really fast, and I did a total of 3 coats on each of these. And the process went pretty fast because, like I said, I could just paint 1 coat after another pretty much. So going back and forth between the 2 pieces really helped speed up the process as far as like using my time and not having any downtime waiting for it to dry. It was really convenient. Now that everything was painted, it was time to get started on the drawer designs. And to be honest, I kind of wasn't too sure on what I was going to do yet. I knew I was going to do kind of like a fan or sunburst pattern. And but I wasn't sure other than that. So I got started on taping that sunburst pattern, like I said, and just kind of went off that and let the process take me where it took me. So I stopped with this, but then I ended up taking the pattern up on top of the nightstand, so I decided to finish it off at the very top here and do one last little sun ray, if you will. And yeah, just cut it halfway through so that it looked like it was one solid design when you looked at it from like an above angle. And unfortunately, I accidentally stopped recording mid-take and then thought it was recording and forgot to record the first coat, and I think I put like 4 or 5 coats, maybe even 6 coats in some parts, because with this small paintbrush I was working with very small amounts of paint at a time, so I was kind of putting like thin layers in between the tape, at a time, and so I had to do it probably 4 or 5 times to get like really good coverage. But then, yeah, it worked out great. And while I let these babies dry, I went and started on the inside details of the drawers. And this isn't necessary, but I always like to do it just because it gives it a nice professional touch. Just painting like a really clean line on the inside of the drawers can just make it look really high end. So I went and taped everything off and then painted as I kind of thought what I wanted to do with the gold design, because I did want to put some gold accents on the piece, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted them to be at this point. So while I let things dry, I went ahead and did this and thought upon what I wanted to do. For these edges, I thought that I needed tape, but honestly, I ended up not really needing the tape at all because I just ended up painting the side and using the side of my brush. I'll show you the technique in a little bit here, but as you can see, I start going really fast and just kind of sloppily doing it, but I found that I got way better coverage when I used this technique here, just getting a good amount of paint onto the brush and just kind of going over it with the side of the brush instead of going at it directly. And this helped me avoid getting any paint where I didn't want it, and also just went a lot faster. So I went and stained the bottom here, but I ended up getting a lot of stain on the side that I just, for whatever reason, didn't clean up. And so I went in with some stain that matched the color, and I just wiped it up with the stain. So it turns out that once you wet gel stain, you can just wipe it off with new gel stain. It's really easy, super simple cleanup, and yeah, little tip for you guys. And now that everything is dry and I have a better idea of what I want to do with the gold, I went ahead and put the drawers back into place and then got to taping the design that I wanted. So with taping designs, you always want to make sure to get good tape. Otherwise, you can get, spillage, whatever you call it, spludge, underneath the tape, and it can end up ruining your design. But I find that half the time I'm using the correct tape, but if there's ever spillage, it's just because I was forgetful, or usually it's forgetful, and I forgot to press down the edges of my tape. That is by far the most important thing when you're doing tape designs. You want to make sure that your edges are firmly pressed against the surface so that you're not getting any sort of spillage underneath it. And your lines will come out crisp and clean, I promise you. Another technique that I have seen other flippers use is to put a coating of clear coat or top coat on top of the edge of the paint, and this will ensure that you have clean lines every single time. So you just brush a little bit of clear coat on top of the tape and on top of whatever surface you're going to be painting, and then the tape comes up super clean and crisp. But I can't, give you my word on it. I've never tried that technique, but I've heard and seen it do wonders. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do with this natural wood trim here, and I knew I didn't want it to be the same color as the rest of the piece. I kind of wanted it to stand out, so I ended up painting it over with this kind of chestnut color stain, and I really actually enjoyed the richness and just slight variation that it gave it, because as you remember, I also did several layers of stain on the drawers to give it like a different kind of rich color, and chestnut was one of the ones that I used. So I ended up, getting similar tones in the color of the trim, which I thought was really beautiful and just slightly varied. Also, if you see the tape lines, I actually couldn't figure out how to get rid of it in time for the video, but I ended up fixing it with top coat. All you have to do is put a layer of whatever top coat you're going to use. I ended up using wax, and so I put a layer of wax over everything, and it just perfectly leveled everything out. Uh, and yeah, just made it all look like it was the same finish and not those clearly distinct finishes that you saw there. And then for the top, as I said, I wanted to kind of blend the design together and do like kind of this big sun effect. But because the bottom portion was for the majority painted, I wanted the top to be the opposite. So I did, because the top portion was majority natural wood or stained wood, I wanted the design itself to be painted instead. So it would add variation, but also be matching. And as I said earlier, I unfortunately wasn't able to get these guys into their original beautiful condition because they were so damaged. So I just went in with some gold spray paint and sprayed them, and then went over them with a spray polyurethane as well, just to make sure that the gold was, protected. But before I show you guys the final product, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed the process. I know I enjoyed doing it. It was by far my favorite project that I think I have ever done. These nightstands are awesome. But in the meantime, please make sure to like and subscribe and do all those things so that we can stay a happy flippin' family, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please make sure to check out my eco-friendly tutorial on my YouTube channel so that we can all be happier flippers. And here is the before, and here is the after. Stay flippin', guys.